भजो भजो रे भजो नाम भजो भजो रे भजो मौला नाम भजो भजो रे भजो गुरु नानक जी की जय जयकार 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 जो बोले सो होवे निहाल 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 अल्लाह साई ले लो सलाम अल्लाह साई ले लो सलाम मौला साई ले लो सलाम मौला साई ले लो सलाम 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 लाखों सलाम 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 लाखों सलाम 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 मेरा सलाम 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 मेरा सलाम यीशु पिता प्रभु साई राम यीशु पिता प्रभु साई राम बुद्ध ज़ोराष्ट्र महावीर नाम बुद्ध ज़ोराष्ट्र महावीर नाम सलाम सलाम लाखों सलाम 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 लाखों सलाम 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 मेरा 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 सलाम गुरु नानक जी की जय जयकार गुरु नानक जी की जय जयकार जो बोले सो होवे निहाल जो बोले सो होवे निहाल अल्लाह साई ले लो सलाम अल्लाह साई ले लो सलाम मौला साई ले लो सलाम मौला साई ले लो सलाम 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 मेरा सलाम सलाम मेरा सलाम यीशु पिता प्रभु साई राम पिता प्रभु साई राम बुद्ध ज़ोराष्ट्र महावीर नाम बुद्ध ज़ोराष्ट्र महावीर नाम सलाम सलाम लाखों सलाम 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 लाखों सलाम 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 मेरा सलाम 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 मेरा सलाम 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 मेरा सलाम 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 मेरा सलाम गुरु नानक जी की जय जयकार
Invoking the blessings of our Divine Master, Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba, we offer our collective salutations at the feet of Sadguru Sri Madhusudan Sai. Dignitaries seated on the dais, respected elders, teachers, students, brothers and sisters seated here, and to all of my fellow youth who are watching us live from around the world, a very good morning and welcome to the inaugural session of the World Youth Meet 2021 here in Sathya Sai Grama, Muddenahalli. It was Franklin Delano Roosevelt who once said, "We cannot always build the future for our youth, but we can build our youth for the future." Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba has always recognized and emphasized the power of the youth. Their collective vitality is a force to be reckoned with. Channeling that force in a positive manner can revitalize the structures and functions of the world, allowing it to rediscover its natural recourse. That is why our Divine Master has always stressed the importance of guiding the youth, or, as President Roosevelt put it, building our youth for the future, so that they can become the unstoppable force for good that they inherently are. We take this opportunity to extend a warm welcome to the leadership team of Sri Sathya Sai University for Human Excellence, seated on the dais. Sri B.N. Narasimhamurthy, sir, revered Chancellor. Professor Shrikanta Murthy, Vice Chancellor. And of course, our collective love and gratitude to our Sadguru Sri Madhusudan Sai, founder of the Sri Sathya Sai University for Human Excellence and the vision and light behind the World Youth Meet. Sadguru is spearheading institutions of public service in the verticals of nutrition, education, and healthcare across 30 countries, and, more importantly, guiding thousands of youth, like myself, to tread the path of knowledge and devotion, so that eventually, one day, we will all reach our destiny, our true divine selves. Collectively, we offer our salutations at his divine lotus feet. We would now like to invite our dignitaries to unveil the logo for the World Youth Meet 2021 and light the auspicious lamp to mark the grand commencement of the two-day conference.
Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
over the past 2 years, the pandemic has affected the youth across different areas, from their families and social circles, to their education, to their economic opportunities and professional careers, and even to their entertainment and creative pursuits. You name it. The unexpected and intractable nature of the pandemic has had both a tremendous and a nuanced impact on the youth. Started the Feed the World initiative 2 years ago, where he encouraged each one of us to serve at least one meal a day. Following safety guidelines in their respective countries, youth from around the world have served a collective of over 3 million meals. In addition to that, within the same time, the Annapurna breakfast platform has served in India alone over 45 million meals. Many of the youth have not been able to attend the World Youth Meet for the second year in a row. However, it is a joy to know that they are witnessing the proceedings live as they happen. We would like to commence the proceedings with Vedic invocation by our grade 9, 10, and pre-university students from the Sri Sathya Sai Sharada Niketanam, Mandya campus, and they will chant the Narayana Suktam.
Hari Om Sahasrashirasham Devam Vishwaksham Vishwashambhuvam Vishwannarayanam Devam Aksharam Paramam Padam Vishwatah Paraman Nityam Vishwannarayanagum Harim Vishwamevedam Purushastad Vishwamupajivati Padim Vishwasyatmeshwaragum Shashwatagum Shivamachyutam Narayanam Mahagneyam Vishwatmanam Parayanam Narayana Paro Jyotiratma Narayana Paraha Narayana Param Brahma Tattvan Narayana Paraha Narayana Paro Dhyata Dhyanan Narayana Paraha Yaccha kinchit jagat sarvam drishyate shoyate piva Antarbahishcha tat sarvam vyapya narayana stitaha Anantamavyayam kavigum samudrentam vishwashambhuvam Padmakosha pratikashagum hridayam chapyadomukam Adonishtavitasthante nabhyamuparitishthati Jwalamalakulam bhati vishwasyayatanam mahata Santatagum shilabistulam bhatya kosha sannibam Tasyante sushiragum sukshman tasmin sarvam pratishtitam Tasya madhye mahanagnir vishvachir vishvato mukaha Sogra bhugvibhajantishtannaharamajara kavihi Narayanaya vidmahe vasudevaya dhimahi Tanno Vishnu prachodayata ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ तत्सत् श्री साईश्वरार्पणमस्तु
The theme for the 2021 World Youth Meet is the pandemic lessons within and without. The aim of this conference is to conduct an open forum that encourages youth from around the world to share their experiences, challenges, and learnings during the pandemic with an intention to carefully draw out their inner world and relate it in conjunction to their outer world, and thus bring about an extensive sharing of viewpoints in the hopes that the youth can learn from each other and uplift one another during this ever-changing environment so that they can be the force that changes the world. We will now have the inaugural video of the World Youth Meet 2021.
The arrival of the COVID pandemic in 2019 plunged the world into an abyss. As schools began to close and people started to work from home, life turned upside down. Among the youth and adolescent population. A survey conducted by the International Labour Organization found that globally, 50% of young people aged between 18 and 29 are possibly subject to anxiety or depression, and a further 17% are probably affected by it. At such a time when fear and uncertainty grips the world, the words of the Kathopanishad shine as a guiding light. The self-existent one turned the senses outwards. Therefore, one looks outside and not to the self within. A wise person searching for immortality turned his gaze inwards and saw that self within. The scriptures go on to say that ignorant ones pursue outward desires. The wise ones, who know immortality, do not seek permanence in temporary things. It is only by discerning the temporary from the real that true peace and happiness can be found. By turning the outward-facing senses inwards, the unspeakable strength that is naturally hidden within each one of us begins to emanate, melting away the trials and tribulations of life's circumstances. The ongoing COVID pandemic has proven to be one such circumstance which has pushed each individual to draw upon that strength and light from within to overcome various challenges that have presented themselves without. It is in this spirit that youth from around the world have engaged themselves in various spiritual and service activities, choosing to turn their focus within. And the theme of this year's World Youth Meet over the next 2 days will be the pandemic lessons within and without. Youth from all over the world will share their journey through the pandemic, highlighting the lessons they have learned both internally and externally. They will speak about how the pandemic has affected their lives and reflect on how they overcame numerous difficulties and were also able to find ways to serve society even during such testing times. As it is famously said, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And this year's World Youth Meet will exemplify the lessons learned by a few of the many youth across the world who have indeed got going.
At the young age of 19, Sri B.N. Narasimhamurthy was inspired by his mentor, Sri Madhyala Narayan Bhatt, to devote a life towards serving society. Having come to Baba at a very young age, he served as a warden for more than 50 years at Baba's various educational institutions. He is at the forefront of the education mission of Baba under the direction of Sadguru Sri Madhusudan Sai. He has inspired thousands of youth over the years and continues to do so today with his rich breadth of knowledge and his penchant for imparting life lessons that endure the test of time. We now invite Sri B.N. Narasimhamurthy, revered Chancellor of the Sri Sathya Sai University for Human Excellence and an iconic champion for the youth, to deliver the opening remarks.
On behalf of all the youth, past youth, and future youth gathered here, and all those who have been a part of this World Youth Meet online, I offer our loving pranams at the lotus feet of Sadguru Sri Madhusudan Sai. Thank you, Tej Sunny Anand, for that wonderful introduction, not introduction to me, the introduction to the theme of the World Youth Meet. Napoleon said, a leader is a dealer in hope. A leader is a dealer in hope. During the pandemic period, we saw such many leaders who dealt in hope. In an atmosphere of hopelessness, they stood as beacons of hope. Many of them inspired hope and optimism in an atmosphere of pessimism and darkness. During the pandemic period, Sadguru Sri Madhusudan Sai became a wholesale dealer in hope. That is the theme on which I would like to speak in my opening remarks to this World Youth Meet. As was pointed out by Tej, pandemic affected the whole world without even one exception. Every human being was affected. Every other creature, animal or bird was affected, and the whole of nature was affected. And on human beings, it had a very devastating effect. Individuals suffered, families suffered, nations suffered. Children suffered, youth suffered, grown-up people suffered, old people suffered. But one important thing that we can learn is when we study the behavior of mankind during this period. When fear gripped the psyche of mankind, when people were devastated by loss of dear ones, breadwinners, when national economies collapsed, there were a few people who did not experience fear. Most people suffered from the pandemic, and many more suffered from the fear of pandemic, But during this period, from all over the world, there were individuals and pockets of individuals who did not experience fear. The study of the lives of such people, such individuals, such communities, such societies, is a great hope for the future of mankind. How did they remain free from fear? This is a question we have to ask, and the answer lies in their spiritual strength. Not that they did not physically suffer. People who did not suffer from fear, they would have physically suffered, no doubt. They might have also lost their dear and near ones. They might have also lost their businesses. They might have also lost jobs. But they did not suffer from fear. How did it happen? There were only two classes of individuals or two classes of societies who were free from fear when the whole world was gripped by fear. The first are those who believed in God, who had faith in God, who had love for God, and who had cultivated a sense of surrender to God. Naturally, they did not experience any fear. When Bhagavan Sri Rama assured the whole of mankind, Sakrudeva Prapannaya Tavasmiti cha Uchyate Abhayam Sarvabhutebhyo Dadamyetat Turatam Mama. Whoever, when he said whoever, he said man, woman, child, beast or bird. Because that is what we see in the life of the great Lord Sri Rama. Beasts and birds also took shelter at his lotus feet. What he declared was, anyone who comes to me and tells me only once from the depth of his heart, I belong to you. I surrender to you. All of them, Abhayam Sarvabhutebhyo, to all such beings, I grant Abhaya or fearlessness. This is what he said. He did not say, whoever comes to me and surrenders to me, I will remove all his difficulties or all her difficulties. He did not say, as soon as somebody comes and surrenders to me, I will solve all their problems. He did not say. He said, I will give Abhaya, means sense of fearlessness. I definitely grant them. Those who surrender to me, those who believe in me, I grant them sense of fearlessness. What it means, it is in the nature of life that we have to face ups and downs. It is in the nature of life that one day or the other, either we will lose our near and dear ones, or they will lose us. All that we gather in this world like pebbles on the sands of a beach, one day we have to leave behind and go. Nobody can help it. Difficulties, ups and downs of life are natural to life. But what God grants is the sense of fearlessness. You stare at the challenge with courage in your heart. Here I remember Winston Churchill, who said, success is the ability to move from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. See, that is success. Because ultimately, if you look at it from a physical sense, from a material sense, the life is a tragedy, which will end with death for everybody. This nobody can escape. But what is success in life? Success in life is the ability to move from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. It was also Henry Ford who said, one becomes old when he stops learning, when he stops growing. Yesterday here also we heard the music legend, Mr. Shivaraman. He said this. He was when Swami went up the stage, he was speaking, and he said this: "We will not grow old, but if we stop growing, we will become old." That's what he said. Therefore, it is the sense of fearlessness that marks out a person who has earned the grace of God, not richness, not wealth, not scholarship, not leadership, not power, not authority. What marks a man or woman who has gained the grace of God is a smiling face at all times. Success or failure, you take it as gift from God, and you look at life as a process of learning and not a process of gaining. See, this is what is very important. That's one class of people. There were individuals, there were pockets of individuals, and I am sure that most of the youth or the past youth who are listening to me, we were also such men and women. We are also such men and women because we trust in the power of God, because we believe in the wisdom of our Guru, Sadguru Sri Madhusudan Sai. We are not affected internally. Externally, we are affected by everything, naturally. That is the nature of life. But internally, we are not affected. We have that kind of courage. That is why it is said, humility in success and courage in failure mark out a man of substance. Humility in success and courage in failure, they mark out a man or woman of success. And there are other people who might not have believed in God. They may not speak of spiritual values, but there are another category of people, men and women all over the world, who are moved by compassion for fellow beings. They may not claim themselves to be spiritual personalities. They may not claim themselves to be great believers in God. In fact, some of them may deny God. Great religions like Jainism and Buddhism, they don't believe in God. But what moves the followers of Buddha, the followers of Mahavira, is that compassion for fellow beings, which elevates human being to a divine level spontaneously, automatically, without that person seeking that divinity. Therefore, this is a very important lesson, that when you are moved by devotion to God, you will have fearlessness. When you are moved by compassion for fellow beings, you will have that kind of courage in life. And this is what exactly our wholesale dealer in hope did in Sathya Sai Gram. I still remember this auditorium, Premamrutham, was packed to the brim by the students and mostly the teachers of all our campuses. As soon as the epidemic broke out, we came back from a trip to Hong Kong and a few Far East countries. And we were to embark on a tour of Europe, whole of Europe. Everything was set. Suddenly, the brakes were applied by the pandemic. And Swami naturally cancelled the trip. And what did you do here is a great lesson for every one of us, especially the youth. There was panic among people here. Even in the ashram, there was panic. And what did Swami do? Immediately, he started giving hope in the form of talks, both in the morning, afternoon, and evening, almost 5 to 6 hours every day he spoke of the eternal wisdom of the Upanishads, the wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita, and the wisdom of the spiritual treasure of the whole world. He spoke about it and gave hope. And that Paravidya teachers camp, which was going on, 15 days there was continuously lessons in theory and principles of spirituality. And next 15 days, a few hundred people here in the ashram were affected by the pandemic. And then started the practical examination. Practical lessons started then. I was seeing myself, I was watching myself. Many of our teachers panicked. And some of them left with permission, some of them left without permission also, never to come back. But what did Swami do? He went on giving the lessons. He chose the cream of youth available in the campus at that point of time. That was our university students, boys sessions and girls sessions separately. And he started speaking, giving hope. The hope spread. And the panic stopped. Courage prevailed. Within a few days, there was pandemic, both outside and inside the campus, but there was no fear. That was a practical lesson, practical experience of everybody. And rooted in our spiritual strength, we lose all fear. This is what we need to learn. And that is on one side. He spoke fearlessly. He thought fearlessly. And he worked fearlessly. It is not just conveying the wisdom. He put it into practice. Through Annapurna Trust, he took up many activities all over the country and even globally, as was pointed out by Tej, to alleviate the fear, to feed the hungry. Millions of meals were served. Thousands of kits, anti-COVID kits, were distributed to people. And especially Chikbalapur district and Mandya district saw the youth from Annapurna Trust, youth from our own institutions, going around to the COVID centers and distributing Swami's prasadam in the form of nutrition, nutritious food. And more importantly, it is not just food, it is not just nutrition. It is, they gave them courage. See, this is not just food, this is prasadam from God. God is there to look after you. Instill that sense of courage in the people. And even when the pandemic was creating a ravage all over the world, Sadguru Sri Madhusudan Sai created 4 new girls' campuses. 4 new girls' campuses. And I am so thrilled to see those little girls here. From Haveri, from Gadag, from Dodbalapur, and probably from our Tamil Nadu campus, Madurai campus, the children could not travel, but some teachers are there. I saw them. He created 4 new campuses. It was Brian Tracy, the great lady, who said, an extraordinary leader is one who gets out extraordinary achievement from ordinary people. That marks out a great leader. It is not just praising, it is just drawing courage from what he does. How do I develop such respect, such regard, such devotion to a person or a body, physical body, who was once upon a time my student? It is because of that extraordinary courage, extraordinary passion to serve everyone. Do all the good you can for all the people you can, in all the ways you can, as long as you can. It is 24 hours in the case of Sadguru Sri Madhusudan Sai. All the time. It is not just these 4 new educational campuses of girls. He is sending a message to the women of India. He is sending an optimistic message to the women of India. Once we educate the girl children, they are going to turn over a new leaf, not only in their personal lives, in the lives of their families, their villages, towns, and some of them may rise up to turn over a new leaf in the history of the country also. That was a great message which was sent. And not just these 4 educational campuses. Look at the beautiful hospital which has come up. See, Sathya Sai Sarala Memorial Hospital. The governments were fear-struck. They were acting in a very frantic way because it was predicted that the 3rd wave of COVID would hit the children. Because in India, till day, children are not vaccinated. It would hit the helpless children. What did Swami do? It is an extraordinary achievement. Brother Srinivas told me after the inauguration of the hospital, this is a miracle. During pandemic times, when many people, especially those who support us financially, support Swami financially, had also undergone many losses, where their earnings had dwindled, many millions of dollars were mobilized because an extraordinary leader inspires extraordinary achievement from ordinary people. Many of our friends from all over the world, they rallied around Swami. My humble obeisance to all those who supported this noble cause, because Swami wanted to create this hospital as a shelter for children hit by the 3rd wave. But it never came. And also hope it will never come. But today what has happened? See, history is being made. For the first time in the history of the rural districts of Karnataka, except the urban districts like Mysore, Bangalore, maybe Dharwad, Belgaum, they had not seen a hospital which would perform surgeries, heart surgeries on children. First time in the history of Chikbalapur district. And I'm very proud that I belong to Chikbalapur district. Already 3 plus 5 plus 3, 11 surgeries have been performed, 11 children have been saved. And today 3 surgeries are being performed. And Swami is going to see those parents. That is why I say, I conclude by saying, Sadguru Sri Madhusudan Sai may be anything. As per our understanding, as per our perception. But I would definitely say, nobody can deny this, he is a wholesale dealer in hope. Thank you very much. Sai Ram.
We will now have a short break, and resume at 10:30 a.m. Indian Standard. So with regards to the World Youth Meet, as far as the schedule goes, real quick, we will resume the World Youth Meet at 10:30 a.m. after Swami's darshan and after his speech, with speeches by youth from Region 1 and Region 2.
I think actions speak louder than words, and louder than actions are our Narsimurti's words. When the idea of World Youth Meet was proposed this year, and of course most of it being online because not many youth could travel, and I personally requested don't travel at this point in time. We are still coming out of the pandemic, and we do not know what's in store. So be safe in your own countries, avoid traveling, and attend the youth meet from your own place. Many of them mobilized. I know that they felt bad, they felt sad that they could not travel. It's been 2 years, and still they decided to stay back and not participate physically, just obeying the command. First of all, I would like to thank all of them who have made that sacrifice to make things convenient for us here at the ashram by not traveling and attending it in physical, but seeing it online. So thank you very much for being able to do that. See, a family is nothing but the human beings, the members of the family. Houses are not family, properties are not family. It's the people who are the family. A nation is a nation. It's not the geographical boundaries, it's not the weather, it's not the climate conditions, it's not the governance. It is the people who are the nation. Likewise, this world is not just a planet made of 5 elements going around the sun, but it is people who make this world. So if this whole world has to be happy, it's the people who have to be happy. And if people are sad, that's when the whole world is sad. In India, we always believed that one cannot be happy all by himself or herself, by just doing things for himself or herself. We are all interconnected. We are all interdependent, both in happiness as well as in sorrow. One's sorrow is everybody's sorrow, and one's happiness is everybody's happiness. I think the pandemic made people sensitive to this idea that our well-being lies in the well-being of everyone. That is why we pray, Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Not just me, but everybody should be happy, everybody should be healthy, because if somebody is sick and infected, that infection, that sickness, in some way or the other, will reach me someday or the other. Therefore, in everybody's happiness lies my happiness, in everybody's well-being lies my well-being. This is the ancient Indian prayer of Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha, Sarve Santu Niramaya. And I think that is something that has now been understood by everybody in the world, that we are all healthy if everyone is healthy. We are all happy when everybody is happy. This pandemic definitely has taught us all great lesson in humility in front of the great divine power of nature. We are nothing. And that has taught us to be humble. It has also taught us to be sensitive to each other's pain and suffering. Because everybody was equal in this pandemic, rich or poor, wise or illiterate, rustic or a dweller in the city, everybody was equally prone or susceptible to the pandemic. And therefore we all felt equal for once. That's the great lesson this pandemic has taught, is what I think. And I always say, every adversity of man is God's opportunity to teach something to man. And that is why the conference, this youth meet, was thought of as lessons that God has tried to teach us through this adversity of pandemic. And these lessons are for life. Just the other day, our devotee, our senior devotee from US, Bob Bazani, he sent an email that how touched he was when he accidentally pressed the throttle, the accelerator instead of the brake while parking, and he hit the wall of some cafeteria. And immediately a lot of youngsters came around. They thought he wasn't well, and though he was, and they immediately offered him a coffee. They didn't even charge him, he said. This doesn't happen in America often. Nothing is free, as they say, especially in America. But they came around and helped him. And he felt that this kind of behavior from especially the youth, he hasn't experienced. He said something has changed in America. The young people, unknown, their acquaintances, they're just strangers. They come together to help an old man. And this is something I feel that is the reason behind is the pandemic, when everybody became sensitive, kind, compassionate to each other, which wasn't the case. Think of the world 2 years ago. It was very selfish. People were only thinking about themselves, their money, their growth, their fame, their position, their power, their influence. They never thought that suffering can be so an equalizer in the society, a leveler in the society. They never could think of it. But for once they had to think. And I was going through some news, and then they said that there is a new wave which has started. Youngsters are resigning from their jobs. The Great Resignation, it is called, like the Great Depression of the past, the Great Resignation. And what does it mean? 4 million American young youth, in the sense who are working, employed people, have willingly resigned from their jobs. And I was wondering what is happening. Why would youth resign from their jobs? And that is because they understood the value of life, they said. They said they were just mindlessly, blindly running behind money, running behind power, running behind material pleasures, when this pandemic struck and made them realize that life is so fragile. Harita nimishad kalat sarvam, says Shankaracharya. It can be taken away in a trice. So don't be too arrogant. Ma kuru dhana jana yavvana garavam. Don't be too arrogant about your dhana, wealth, jana, people or friendships, relationships, yavvana, about your youth or life itself. Don't be too proud about it, because it can be taken away in a trice. And pandemic did this. In India, in the second wave, the average age of the people who suffered, who even passed away because of the wave, was between 30 to 40 years, 30 to 40, 45 years. They were all earning members of their families. They had dependent members in their families, and they lost their lives. And with that, a lot of wealth was lost in treatment, in care, in cure, because there was no particular cure for the pandemic. You had to just keep the patient in the ICU for a long, long time and just do whatever you can. But nothing was sure. People became poorer. People lost their kith and kin. People lost the earning member, the breadwinner of the family. Children became orphaned. Some lost both their parents. The tragedy was such. But in those times, as our Narasimhamurthy said, that the only thing that helped people was not janabalam, dhanabalam, or buddhibalam, as they say in India. Janabalam means you have a lot of friends and acquaintances, you know the prime minister and the president. Nothing worked. Pandemic didn't bother about it. Even if the president would put in a word, please don't affect this person, pandemic is not going to listen to it. Dhana, give as much money you want. Maybe it will help you, but no guarantee that you will survive. You will come out of the ICU despite spending lakhs of rupees. And I'm told the average ICU bills ran between 10 to 12 lakh rupees in India. This is beyond the capacity of anybody. Even an average middle class family cannot afford this kind of treatment. People took loans. There were no insurance schemes to cover these issues. People sold their gold, their wealth, the property, they took loans, borrowed, got into a debt trap Children were withdrawn from schools. People couldn't pay their fees. Their online education was disconnected. All kinds of things we have seen in this last year. Nothing worked. How intelligent you were, it didn't work. The only thing that worked, which helped people survive through this sad time, was Atma Balam. Being able to depend on divinity which is within and without. Those who had faith in divine, they accepted it with humility that this is the divine decree. And they all looked for what is the lesson that the divine is trying to teach us through this pandemic. And this is what happened. Many, many people turned towards God. Some took to pranayama, yoga, at least to be healthy. They had never seen a rising sun, but they all woke up early to do pranayama because they wanted to save themselves from corona. They took to yoga classes, and they rediscovered this idea of health. What is health? It's not 6 packs, 8 packs. Health is a very balanced state of existence, where your body, mind, heart, everything is in harmony. That is health. That is well-being. People discovered that. People discovered talents within themselves. IT professionals became farmers because their genes were farmers' genes, and they never enjoyed the computers. They enjoyed the nature. They enjoyed working in the fields. But they never knew that because society had pushed them into this one straight jacket approach. Everybody should be engineer, doctor, and nothing else is permitted to be. They rediscovered themselves. And they went back to learning music, going back to their art, their sport, or their farming, or anything that actually they were meant to do. So this pandemic changed the perspective of a lot of youth around the world, in India and abroad. And I think this is a great boon that this pandemic has left behind. If we can remember these lessons and not forget. Our youth, especially with the clarion call of serving the needy, serving the hungry, they went around packing meals, putting in small boxes, putting in their car's trunk, and going around and around the city distributing. Sometimes in groups, sometimes individually. Our kitchens worked to give hot meals to people who were shivering in the cold, who were hungry. Somebody said, God wakes us up hungry. We wake up hungry, but God never puts us to sleep hungry. And that's what happened. All these people were fed who were otherwise going to go to sleep hungry on an empty stomach. And that you do not know the power of that little work that you have done. You may not understand it. For you, it may look like one mechanical thing. You made some meals and you ate and you gave somebody. No. To that person who received that meal at that hour of the night, you have rekindled faith in humanity. You have instilled faith in God in that person. You made the whole society better by just this little act of service, of showing that you are sensitive, you are concerned about somebody else. You have changed the DNA of the society. It's a paradigm shift. We may not understand it right now, but its effects will be seen in the coming generations. Spiritual lessons were also learned here, especially obviously when you can't go out, you have to only go in. That was the mandate. So the way to go in was to meditate, to contemplate on our scriptural truths, because that alone is the strength. At the end, Atma Balam, the strength that comes from within alone sustains us. All other strengths fail, especially in front of such a thing like this pandemic. People studied Upanishads. People studied the great truths. They discussed, they debated, they meditated, contemplated, and practiced. That made all of them better people. And I can see the difference here itself between the people 2 years ago, how they were, and now how they are, after having gone through these lessons and sessions. And now this is, I think, available to everybody across the world. And I remember, I heard that so many study circles were formed, online study circles on Master the Mind, and they discussed about how one has to take charge of one's mind and transcend it. And people thought about it deeply. And pandemic gave that time, that opportunity, which otherwise was not available in such a busy world. God is always the last on priority list. Spiritual activities are always compromised in the name of professional commitments. But this is the time when you couldn't do, even if you wanted to do all your professional work, all your other things. So you had no choice and you had to turn within. And I think that is the boon that we received through this pandemic. While we lost so many of our kith and kin, and it is sad, but that was a situation where nobody could do anything about it. Helplessly, we had to just watch it happen. But should there be another such incident, even in a century, I think as a society, we have to be better prepared. More importantly, better prepared within more than without, to face such a situation, to deal with that situation with courage and confidence, which comes by depending on that divine strength which is within each one of us. And what is beyond our control, which we cannot change, we must learn to accept it humbly as the divine will and still keep the balance. Youth of today, who populate 50% of this planet, they are going to be the majority of the population in the coming times, and the children who are going to be youth in some years. I think these people have to remember these lessons and never forget for their lifetime and pass it on to the next generation to depend on the divine within. Today and tomorrow, there will be more discussions between all of you about what all you have learned and how it has helped you and how it has made you better ready for the future. That would be the discussion that will go on, while I would like to convey my personal appreciation for all the people who work very hard to help people in need during this difficult time, and all the devotees who went out of their way to let go of many of their attachments and possessions so that somebody else can also live and eat. Somebody else all can benefit. Just the example of the hospital. It was a big project, but it was necessary. It was indeed needed. And many, many people, young and old, everybody did their bit to ensure that this was up and ready. And today, more than 11 children are operated and they're healthy. And it is the collective strength of the society. It's not done by me, or it's not done by him, or it's not done by a few. It's done by the whole world. So many countries participated. See, this is the collective strength of goodness. And that is what I believe in. Many people ask me, why do you take such risks? Why do you go on doing things like this? What we already have is enough and more for our plate. And why do you put more and more on it? And I tell them, see, I don't trust you, Narasimhamurthy. I don't even trust myself, but I trust in goodness. I trust dharma. And whoever is doing good, there is no other way. All gods have to bow down to that person, and all have to help. Everybody has to help a person who is doing work selflessly. So even if you cannot trust yourself, trust good. Trust in doing good. That good will take care of everything. So dear children, all the youth, the world does not need rich people. The world does not need very intelligent people. The world does not need very powerful people. The world has enough of them and more. The world just needs good people. Good people who live to be good, who live only to do good. And good means doing selfless acts of service, selfless acts of help to everybody without any conditions. That is goodness. And if you believe in that goodness, if you become good children, good youths, good devotees, good citizens of this planet, let me assure you, there is no need to look for anything beyond this. This is heaven. This is everything. This is Jivan Mukti. This is Moksha. This is the ultimate Gati. There is nothing more than that. If we all become good, love each other, look after each other, there is nothing more to be attained. That then and there you attain Moksha, says Upanishad. If you give up all desires, yada sarve pramuchyante kama yasya hridishritaha athamartyo amrito bhavati atra brahma samushnate. This is the essence, conclusion of Kathopanishad. If you give up all your petty desires, selfish desires, and your heart is free of all those knots of desires that bind you, then and there you become immortal. That is where you realize Brahman, here and now. You don't have to look beyond this. So I think this pandemic has pushed us, even if we didn't want to, towards this path. When all doors closed and we had only one door open to go within, this pandemic helped us. Let us not forget these lessons. Let us not invite another pandemic from God to relearn all this. Once learned, it should be good enough for centuries of our work. Let us keep these lessons close to our heart to be good humans. That's all is needed. In goodness lies everything. Lies prosperity, lies peace, lies joy, lies purpose. Everything lies in this one word, good. And God itself, G-O-D, is in good, G-O-O-D. And therefore, be good. That's the essence of this pandemic. What is the lesson we have learned? To be good. If we have learned that, we have learned everything. There is nothing more to be learned. So just be good, and I will go and see the children and come. The doctors invited us to see them. They all have been shifted from the ICU to the step down, or I think the wards, the first batch of surgeries. I'll go and see them and come, and want to appreciate and encourage the doctors who have worked quite hard. I was told one of those has worked 14 hours. They have to stand. Imagine for a conference, if you have to sit for 14 hours, you get tired. They are standing and operating on a live being. That to such a small baby with such a small heart. Now, baby's heart, how big it will be? Baby itself is 2-year-old. As big as the fist, they say, heart size. So a small baby's fist is only so much. And in that there is a hole that has to be corrected. Look at the precision, the perfection, the focus the doctors must have. And 5 surgeries in a day they have done because one day we missed out thanks to the power outage here. We are in a village, we should never forget. It looks like we are elsewhere, but the reality is that we are in an Indian rural setting where power is always unpredictable. So we didn't have a whole power for the whole day. We did not want to take risk. We said we won't do surgeries. We will wait. But the next day, doctors felt bad. One day we did not do surgeries. We must do it. Next day they did 5 surgeries, saying we will finish whatever we have decided to do. Not to make some Guinness World Record of surgeries, just because they felt anxious. For the parents who were told their children will be operated today, they were not operated. Parents will go through tremendous trauma. Whether they'll be operated at all, what will happen if they don't stop all the operations, what will happen to all kinds of anxiety. Just to soothe them, they did whatever they could. That is the kind of doctors we have. That is the kind of people we have. That's why this mission is galloping. And I'm never afraid of doing anything. He told it right. One thing that you can define me with is fearlessness. I'm never afraid of anything or anyone. Because when you do good, there is no reason to fear. There is no reason to worry. Ups and downs come, but I'm not afraid. Why? Because I believe in that goodness. I believe in truth. You don't believe in God, you are an atheist, all right. Believe in good, you are still good to go. Most of the world does not believe in God, but they can still be good. That does not require you to be religious. That does not require you to be following any guru or a master. Being good is your very nature. You can be good. And pandemic has made us all better. That is what I believe and I have observed. And I really, truly hope that this lesson will remain with us forever. And looking at our goodness, the coming generations will get inspired, and they won't need a pandemic to learn this. They will just see us, and by that, they will become good. So I will go now, and I will see you all in the evening. Please do deeply think about these ideas, these lessons, and keep them in your heart for all times to come.
We offer our sincere and utmost collective gratitude to our dear Sadguru for sharing his divine message with us on this glorious morning. And we will conclude the inaugural session of the World Youth Meet 2021 with the Mangala Aarti.
Om Jai Jagadish Hare Swami Sathya Sai Hare Bhakta Jana Samrakshaka Bhakta Jana Samrakshaka Pati Maheshwara Om Jai Jagadish Hare शशिवदना श्रीधरा सर्वा प्राणपते स्वामी सर्वा प्राणपते आश्रितकल्पलतिका आश्रितकल्पलतिका आपद्बान्धवा ॐ जय जगदीश हरे मातपिता गुरुदैवमो मरियन्तयु नीवे स्वामी मरियन्तयु नीवे नाद ब्रह्म जगन्नाथा नाद ब्रह्म जगन्नाथा नागेन्द्राशयना ॐ जय जगदीश हरे ओंकार रूप ओजस्वी ओ साई महादेवा सत्य साई महादेवा मंगलारति अंदुको मंगलारति अंदुको मंदर गिरिधारी ओम जय जगदीश हरे नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण 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 ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरु देवा नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण 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 ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरु देवा नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण 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 ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा शांति 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 समस्त लोका सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्त लोका सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्त लोका सुखिनो भवन्तु शांति 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 जय बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा जी की जय जय